Hello everyone, I'm going to show you how to fix a loose and sloppy hinge. You can see on a LG V60 thin-Q dual screen. So first, tools you're going to need a little tiny, this is a, what is this, Phillips 000 bit. This is for my iFixit Protect toolkit, which is right over here. These are actually really great to have. They're only about $100. And then in that kit, I also have this little pry tool and a tube of blue removable Locktite. Emphasis on the blue. You do not want to get red because red is permanent, and the only way to remove red is with a torch. I have a few different tubes of Locktite. So this is medium strength, removable. So either of these would work. You're going to want to start by taking the phone out of the case, turn off dual screen, and then pop the phone out. I'll set that off to the side. Now, with the case, on the top and bottom, you have to open it kind of like this, or like that, but inside on the top and the bottom are two of these little tiny Phillips screws. I took them off and realized I wasn't recording, so you are going to remove those and remove them on both the top and the bottom. And then now just open up the case, and then you're going to pull up on these little hinges. I don't know what they call them, hinges, or like the hinge covers out, and just pull up on them. Alright, and then the inside of one of them is going to have this little metal, or not metal, this little plastic dowel. I think this is just to prevent one side of the screen from rotating faster than the other, and then that exposes the hinge. So you still have a floppy screen. Oh, and there's also an inner hinge which just pops right out. If you look closely on that top hinge, when I wiggle it, focus camera, you can see it. You can see the screen moving, but not the end of the hinge, so you can tell that the culprit is inside where the screen is. So I'm going to zoom out. Excuse me. So right here, there is a seam on the outside on the screen, and that runs along the whole perimeter of the screen. And this is where you're going to use your Jimmy tool, as they call it, for the kit. And then I'm going to zoom in so you can see right there. And you're just going to, whoops, try not to slip like I did. But you're just going to try and, I can fix that, separate. There we go. You heard that little nice little crack. That was not the glass breaking, that was just the plastic separating. And you're going to want to just, you can use your fingernail, a credit card. I'd like to use my fingernail because, well, I haven't clipped my nails in a couple days, and that allows you to easily get in between and separate it without having to worry about penetrating too deep and slicing a wire. There are some parts where you might need the assistance of the tool, like right here. Just a little. Don't flex the screen too much, or flex the outside part too much, or else you risk cracking your glass. Then you have to spend $30 and get a new piece of glass. So just keep prying up. And then there's also a seam, so this is the hole. So this is the front of the phone. So we got all of that separated out on the bottom, and now we just need to get this inner part where the inside of the hinges would be. So just, you're going to want to, probably again with this tool right there in that corner, there's a little gap. There we go. Same thing on the bottom. Let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. And then now, zoom out. There's a little adhesive. Oh yeah, there's a little bit of glue. Look at that. Weeble wobble. That's a lot of wiggle. Bottom hinge isn't really moving. It's all in that top hinge. But let me just make sure the case is still working. So I'm going to pop in my phone. And then... Yep, still working. I've had this case apart before. This case took a swim in a sink, and the phone is water resistant, but the case isn't. So I completely disassembled this case into every possible piece you can think of, and completely cleaned them with rubbing alcohol and a toothbrush, and it came back to life. And yeah, this actually looks pretty neat with the without the glass in it. But back to the topic of the video, which is fixing that hinge. I just wanted to fix the I just wanted to make sure the case was working before I went any further. So just pop out the phone, and then now this is where we start. So we're gonna start. So you're gonna use your Phillips. I'm using a 000. I'm pretty sure you can use a 0 or a whatever size you deem fit, but I'm just going to, oh yeah, that's really loose right there. So I'm just going to pop this out. Remove these two screws. Nikes. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. I'm going to do these bottom hinge screws as well. Be very careful with that ribbon cable. Or that, yeah, the ribbon cable, I guess. That is where all the smart stuff from the phone goes to the case. So you do not want to even touch that with your screwdriver, because you could nick the insulation and it could short to ground or short to itself, and you would have a bad day. Alright, so those ends are loosened up. I'm actually going to put the screws in this little tray that's actually also used as the lid for the iFixit, because I do not want to lose these screws. So this is where you get your Locktite ready. So blue removable thread locker. Use the magnetic end of this screw, dribble the Locktite on there, and then I'm going to thread the screw back in. Not too tight, because you are screwing you're screwing straight into plastic. So do not over torque these, or else you will strip your hinge and you will be in a world of hurt. So I'm just going to let that little bit of Locktite sit there, because it'll eventually soak into the threads. I'm going to get my second screw, and I'm just going to let the magnetism hold it onto the tip of the screwdriver. Kind of see there, it wants to focus on the, got it? There you go. and then get Locktite again. It's just a drop. Just a singular drop of Locktite. I'm actually going to put this one at the top half of the phone. Get that tight, but don't over tighten it because you will strip that plastic. Right? Screw 3 of 4. Once again, a little, little drop of Locktite. And then I'm just going to right there. Also, if the screw should, my hand is covering the shot, but the screw should go in very smoothly. There should be no resistance at all. If there is, then you are cross-threading it. And if you're cross-threading it, back out the screw immediately and restart, because if you will basically strip out the threads. So I'm just gonna, I can't find the screw, it's underneath all the Loctite. Alright, I'll get back to that in a second. And then the final screw, once again, stick it to the screwdriver. Little dab of Loctite. And then now, this is going to be on the bottom portion of the phone. And then that screw right there. Be very mindful of, covering up the camera again. Be very mindful of the ribbon cable that's right here. Alright. Let's see how that feels. Ooh, that feels so much better. No more, I'm still really zoomed in. No more flop in the hinge. Feels solid. Just like there are screws holding in the hinges on the screen side, there are also screws holding in on the case side. So before I proceed, I'm just going to use a soak up this excess Loctite. You're going to want to give these just one extra little, just make sure they're snug. Do not over tighten, because you can definitely over tighten, because these are going straight into plastic. So now that the screen end is tightened up, now you want to tighten up the case end. So I believe inside, right here, let me get this sock out of the way, I'm sorry. Right in there, you're going to want to get your little tool and pry up. Oops, I should be pointing down a little bit more. There we go. Just pry this up. It's like a sticker with tape, sticky tape behind it. And then there we go. And then right there are your screws. Let's see if there's any. I don't see any. Whoops, camera's over there. I don't see any wiggle, but while I'm in here, might as well do it. The bottom portion, you can just use your thumb and peel up this plastic piece, and it encircles all the way around to the hinge right there. So there's these two right here. Two screws, two screws. I'm going to start on the top. So Phillips screwdriver. I'm going to throw it in my tray. Screw. Actually, this one's still on my handle, so on my bit, and it's out of focus. Come on, please focus. There you go. So just a little, and it went out of focus. All right, believe me, I'm putting a dab of Loctite, little bitty drop of Loctite onto the screw, and then that screw. That was the lid for the Loctite, but the screw just goes in right there. Don't over thread it or over tighten it. Make sure it goes in smoothly. If it's going in, if it's very resistant going in, that means you're cross threading in, so be careful. Especially when going into plastic. So again, screw on there. And then now, a little bit of Loctite. A little drop that'll stick right to it with the surface tension. And it'll just thread right in. Make sure they're tight. And then where's my sock? Use the Loctite sock and soak up that excess Loctite that's in there. Now let's work on the bottom hinge. Remove the screws. I believe the screws are different on each hinge. They look somewhat different, so just make sure. A little too much Loctite, had to flick some off. Let's thread that in there. Got a little Loctite on there. Little oomph. No, not too much torque. Now let's get this bottom screw out. Get a little drop of Loctite on there. Thread that in. Do not over torque, over tighten. You're going right into plastic threads. You will have a bad day, and you'll have a very floppy LG V60 if you over tightened, and then you won't have a screw holding in that part of the hinge. So now just soak up the Loctite, any excess you dropped. Alright, that is a very tight feeling case. No looseness, no floppiness. Alright, I'll tell you what I'm just going to make sure these are. Now there are also screws in the hinges as well. I don't know if these need to be Loctited, but I'm just going to do it anyway while I'm in here. So again, with your little tiny screwdriver, there's an itty bitty little screw on the side of the hinge right there. Then you can loosen that up. Alright. Now do this one screw at a time, don't take them all out, because I had a very painful time when I was putting together, because I completely took everything apart. I took the whole wiring harness right here. I took that all out when I completely dried up this phone. And putting together that bottom hinge was a challenge. So then on the inside portion of the hinge, or on the outside I should say, there's also another Phillips screw on the top hinge, and I'm going to loosen that one up. Ooh. Little dab of Loctite, and then thread that back in. You can get a little more oomph on these. It's actually going into metal, or at least from what it looks like. It looks like aluminum, so you don't have to worry too much. It's not plastic like the hinges going to the screen. Now these ones right here, the bottom hinges, on the bottom hinge, this was a challenge because you want to do this one screw at a time. or else I spent at least 10 minutes figuring out how to put this hinge together. So one screw out, little dab of Loctite, then thread it back in, make sure it's on camera. Make sure I'm not cross-threading it. Nice and tight, not over tightened. And then now this bottom screw, loosen that up. Drop a Loctite. I know I'm doing this off camera, but I don't want to be messing with the zoom every second. So believe me, I showed how to Loctite the screw in the previous instances, but right there, on the side of the hinge, can't really see because the light is washing it out, and it's also out of focus, but thread that in, nice and tight. Don't heave on it, you just want to get it nice and snug. Alright. That is a fully tightened, oh snap, the magnet that's right here. And that's fine, no big deal. That should just be right there. There we go. Right, but this is all tightened up. Now we get to put it all back together. So I'm going to clean off this area a little bit. So let's get this little bottom chin piece, clean the Loctite off of it, and make sure that magnet is seated into place. And then you can just actually fold the screen back. And then you can just pop that right in. It's a combination of little clips and snaps and adhesive that hold it in. And then on the top portion, you have this little bit right there. And that just goes right there, just clicks right in. Alright, now we can start working on putting the rest of the phone together. So you're going to want to get your little end pieces right here. There's the dowel part that goes in the middle, and I don't know where that screw went. I found the screw, it's right there. Back to the video. I think it's in here. Nope. Whatever, I'll find a suitable replacement. First, I'm going to put the glass back on. Alright. I'm going to use a little rubbing alcohol to clean off the glass because there are definitely some fingerprints on there, which I do not really want to look at when I'm trying to see the time. So, a little rubbing alcohol on a paper towel. And then I'm just going to clean it up. Let's get all fingerprints, cat hairs. Right there, and then same thing on the inside piece. This will just literally snap right on top. It'll click into place very nicely. Helps if you open up the case a little bit. There we go. Alrighty, now that that's all, the screen is in. I'm actually going to buff that off right there. Tired of looking at dirty screens, but now we can start working on putting these little pieces in. So the flat part, the part without the ribs, see how there's the part with the rib in the middle and the flat part. The flat part goes on the inside and the ribbed part goes on the outside. So, and it's going to go, so imagine you're on your phone like this. The part with the you want that the I don't know what to call it. This line, this bar, you want that going on the left side. So right there. So I'm going to fold the phone behind itself. I'm going to put that right there. And just pop it in. Rotate it around till it feels nicely seated in. Then you're going to get the other half of the hinge with it facing like this. And then just it'll click in nicely like that. And if it has any resistance at all, if it starts like opening up on the inside or on the outside, then that means you have that little dowel piece installed upside down. So pop this back open and reinstall that dowel piece. If you're not dumb like me and you actually didn't lose those screws, one would screw right up there and the other one would go right down there, holding the hinge, this whole like clamshell together. But yeah, now let's do a test, make sure the thing still works. Just pop in the phone, and yep, right there. Turn on dual screen. Yep, still working. Touch is still working fine. The little time is working. Yeah, and no more floppy hinge. I'll put a comparison with how it was at the beginning of the video. But yeah, so that is how you tighten up the hinge on your LG V60 thin Q. I don't know how this would work, or I don't know if it's the same on the Velvet or the G8X, but I'm pretty sure they're vaguely similar. But yeah, just clean off this clean off the Locktite, and yeah, have fun.